Welcome to our Monday lunch break discussion, just a weekly little get-together where I'll talk about what we have been doing, will be doing, and at the end I'll give you some little woodworking tip. I literally just finished filming the last of our three-part first classroom series, that introduction to woodworking. I'm hoping I can figure out a way to pay so I can have the time to finish up the other 12 lessons in that series, but we'll see how it turns out, how receptive it is. This one, we worked on a modified version of a Gottschall test, and the only tools we really used was a ruler, a square, and a chisel. Doing all the basic cuts that a typical woodworker would need to learn how to do to make furniture. The other things I've been doing this week is finishing up a lot of little projects. One of those weeks where you're getting a lot of little stuff done, but it doesn't feel like you're getting a whole lot done. I have a whole bunch of stuff that I need to go ahead and mail out, but until I can cover rent this month, I'm holding back on paying the postage on getting that stuff out. Rent comes first. Speaking of that, tomorrow comes out the newsletter, and I think I will put the last workbench I will have available to sell until we actually move out of this place at the end of November. I'll show you what we're doing. This is one that a customer bought last month. I just haven't delivered it, or he hasn't come by and pick it up, one or the other. Basically what I do is I take one of the school's workbenches, I re-flatten the top, get all the kind of blemishes I can out of it. I re-sand all the sides, I adjust the screws, and put some new leather on the leg vices. And then I re-tooth the top. I sand it with 60 grip, so it's kind of grippy, but it doesn't give you splinters. And I put Danish oil, a light coat Danish oil, just so the glue spills don't stick to it as much. And then somebody's going to get a lifetime tool ready to rock and roll for just dirt cheap. Anyways, I'll probably put the last one up for sale, announcing it in the next upcoming newsletter. It'll probably go out before this video, but you never know. Either Tuesday or Wednesday. This week I'm going to be finishing up probably the last of all my coping saws and bow saw projects that I have committed out, and they will go into the batch of stuff ready to sell out. And I am probably going to do a video more in line of my French square video on how to make a bow saw, not a coping saw. Now this week I thought I'd talk about, well, somebody asked me last time about micro bevels on planes and chisels. So I'll talk about what the theory is behind them and how I actually use them. Now, micro bevels. You hear a lot of people talk about micro bevels and how they're great and wonderful and stuff like that, especially in the sharpening world. I'm going to tell you, a micro bevel is going to do two things to you. It's going to either speed up your sharpening, or it's going to give you a higher angle on your plane blade. Hence, I typically don't use them unless I'm just touching something up or I have a specific application. And I think you'll understand why when I explain how you get a micro bevel. So, you have your typical bevel-up plane blade. Something like a bevel-down plane blade. This is a traditional Stanley style plane blade. The blade is actually held at about 45 degrees, and most people will put a 30-degree bevel on their plane. This is the blade sitting in there. Now, sharpening that entire blade takes a little bit of time. So what some people will do is they will hollow grind an angle kind of like that, which is a lot steeper than the traditional 30 degrees. And obviously I'm exaggerating right here. But then they will sharpen just this tip right here at the 30 degrees. That way, every time they sharpen, they don't have to remove as much metal as they're going back until they get to the point where it comes all the way back, at which time they will regrind it and do it like that. So, the advantage of having a micro bevel is you're having to remove less metal at the tip to get back to that sharpness. Now, I typically don't use micro bevels for that purpose. Whenever I sharpen, I will typically put a hollow grind on my bevel, but this continued angle right here is my 30 degrees or 27 degrees or whatever you want to do. And the reason why is a lot of time I do freehand sharpen. And giving me 2 points allows me to rock my blade And when I hear a click, click, I will find the angle and I just sharpen it. And then once it takes too long, I wear past that point, I just go back to my grinder and I touch it down to the wheel, and when the wheel grinds in the center, then I will grind back a little bit more. So I never even actually check the angle of my plane blades on my grinder. I just make sure it grinds from the center, and it should be all accurate over time. Now, having said that, I do use micro bevels every now and then. For example, the advantage of having that micro bevel there, if I put a micro bevel here, it basically increases this angle right there, which makes that tip more durable. So if I know I'm going to be doing a lot of chopping and stuff like that, I might real quickly just go to the stones with my chisel, whatever chisel I'm using, find my angle by going click, 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 and then I will lift it up just a degree or two so that only the tip is touching, and just give it a few strokes. And that way I'm increasing the angle of this chisel without removing that much metal, and next time I go sharpening, it will bring it back down to my original angle. And that will give me a little bit more durable edge for like when I'm chopping stuff. The other thing that a lot of people will use micro bevels for is to change the angle of their blade. Now, if you have a bevel-up plane, something like your block planes, or even something like a Veritas bevel-up plane, well, by changing the angle of your blade, you in effect change the angle that you are cutting. So the wood's right here, the blade's running around. If I were to increase this angle with a slight micro bevel, I could almost turn it into a scraper by giving it a negative angle if I wanted. And if you're getting highly figured wood and you're getting a lot of tear out, a lot of times just putting a slight micro bevel on the end of a bevel up plane will give you a steeper angle. It'll be harder to push through the wood, but it will help eliminate tear out. Then the next time you sharpen it, you have to just have to sharpen past that micro bevel. Now you can do the same exact thing with a bevel down plane, the traditional Stanleys and such, where your blade is sitting in your plane, kind of like that. But instead of putting the micro bevel on the front of the blade, you put the micro bevel on the back of the blade, just like that. Thus, the angle becomes steeper this way, and the shavings will curl up. The problem you have with that is traditionally when you do that one, you're going to remove so much metal, it takes you a long time to remove that micro bevel when you resharpen it to get back to your 45 degrees. So hopefully that makes sense to you. It gives you the pluses and minuses of micro bevels. I traditionally do not use micro bevels on my hand planes unless I have something really gnarly that I'm going to be doing a lot of work with, like a whole tabletop of something curly, and then I might do a micro bevel just to make it easier. But if it's just minor tear or something like that, I'll hit it with a card scraper just to make it easier. But I do change the angle of the tip of my chisels because I use my chisels so much. I will occasionally put that micro bevel in there for certain applications, and then I just grind it right back off. Well, I hope that all that stuff made sense to you. And I guess next week, if y'all have any questions or something like that, you want to leave them down in the comments for me. I'll try to cover some of it. Otherwise, I'll come up with something on the spot. Really, I don't come up with these subjects until I've made my sandwich. I just come out here and turn on the camera. I hope you enjoyed this. And last thing, always remember, it is always worth the effort to learn, create, and share with others. Y'all be safe and have fun. Oh, and go to my store and buy something. I gotta make rent.